Hi guys, this is Fernando doing another video for More Survivalists. In this case, a more laid-back video regarding knife size, getting complacent, and some other thoughts. Here I was going through some of my stuff and I found the very first knife I started carrying every day on everyday basis. This is the cold steel Voyager. Bit of an old school kind of knife. This is at the very least, I started carrying this when I was 17 years old. Yeah, so over 10 years ago, 15 years ago maybe. Yeah, who knows about that. Started carrying it when I was 17, 18. Yeah, about that, because I was just about that age. Nice little knife. Does most of the things you would want a small pocket knife to do. Does it well. The old school plastic pocket clip and such. Made in Japan by folks in cold steel. It has been changed the stuff from one side to the other. I'm for opening knives. I'm left-handed, but my wife ended up carrying this knife with her for some time, so I changed it from one side to the other. Very sharp, definitely very sharp. A nice tip, it's basic Bowie shape blade that just works well. It has nice format. It's not huge or anything, but back in the day I was very glad with this knife. Now soon enough, I maybe carried this for a year or two at most, and soon enough I moved forward and ended up with this one. Cold steel also. Cold steel El Hombre. These guys in cold steel, they have the craziest names. El Hombre, the man. You have like a little cowboy there. This used to be all black, but because of use, I suppose. Well, not actually use. We'll get a little bit more into that. This is a type of thing that I would carry for defensive purposes, and I would carry it with me every single day, guys. Every single day. All day long. If you have pants on, it has to be with you. If you don't have it with you every single day, you're not going to be having it with you when you need it. That's a law of life. I don't know why, but that's the way it is. The day you leave your gun behind, the day you leave your knife, your flashlight, whatever it is, that day is the day you need it. And maybe needing a flashlight and not having it is a medium to moderate inconvenience, something like that. But needing a gun and not having it, needing a tool for defending your life and not having it, or a knife in this case, it can be a huge difference on your fate. So, well, soon enough I ended up with this one. I basically like the S shape of this blade format. I find that for slashing, it does force material much more into the edge and is more effective. With the straight edge, there's sometimes, especially if you're slashing, think of maybe leather, a leather jacket, something like that, there's the possibility of it just sliding, just slipping over it, just not digging in. Here, because of that S shape, it's forcing its way into the material, right? With every slash, it catches the material and forces the edge into it. At the same time, it has that, I think it's called Nogales tip by Cold Steel. That tip is mean. That tip is going to be penetrating very well. So basically is a pocket, a folding knife that does very well those two things. It's good for slashing and it's good for penetration as well. Good combination. Some people will ask, well, does the serrated edge cut? Oh yeah, it does cut. I tried it once, only once, because I think that your blade that's going to be used for defensive purposes should be kept razor sharp. So carrying it every single day, opening it very frequently so as to get good at it, very fast at it, but keeping it razor sharp. So the only time I used it was for testing if it actually cut. You have to know if these things cut. I tested it in an old boxing bag of mine that I was anyway going to be throwing it away because it was all pretty much done for, and a leather boxing bag full of compressed leather and other cloths and such. A couple of slashes went about an inch, 2 inches into that boxing bag full of compacted leather and cloth. So yeah, no doubt it's gonna be penetrating. If it slashes into flesh, it's gonna be cutting very mean. So I had this for many years, probably 10 years carrying this knife. Yeah, if I started at 17 with this one, 18, a couple of years, then move towards this one. Yeah, probably a decade of everyday carry, every single day. And I actually had the need for it this one time. I was visiting a friend in Monte Grande. Those of you guys that were from Argentina, I was going from the Lomas de Zamora train station to Monte Grande. This was Sunday afternoon, I believe. Sunday afternoon, no one there. I was in this in the train, and a couple of kids about my age, I suppose, two little punks, and they approached me and they started looking at me, looking at each other. They came closer, and one of them asked. I had a nice Citizen watch, not this one, it's G-Shock, but nice Citizen titanium watch. It's kind of too visible. After that, I stopped carrying that, wearing that watch on frequent basis. They got closer and they started, hey, what time is it? I told them the time, and they still kept getting closer, too close for my taste. I stepped back, opened the knife like that, and and they didn't say anything. They just turned around and left. They walked to the next train wagon or whatever. And that was it. Nothing too crazy or anything. But obviously they found it intimidating to have to deal with someone that had a knife. They obviously didn't have any weapons with them. I remember it was summer, so we were all wearing like these light T-shirts, and there wasn't anything visible or anything like that. Back then, if you ask me, I didn't care much. I just didn't want to get mugged. But yeah, it is a factor. The intimidation factor is there. Even though you should never ever draw a knife or draw a firearm just to intimidate someone or to threaten someone. That's not how it works. You never ever do that. You just bring your gun out or bring your knife out just as a previous step to actually using it. All right, you bring it out, they come, and you're on. All right, that's basically it. Same as a police officer who draws his firearm when facing a real threat. He draws his firearm not to threaten anyone. He draws it because it's a previous step to actually shooting someone, right? If it so happens that when you draw your weapon, the aggressor turns around, or the burglar or whatever turns around and leaves, that's it. And there's a few numbers crunched by the NRA that like 9 out of 10 times having the firearm with you avoids the actual need for using it. All right, when a criminal is faced with a firearm, 9 out of 10 times he will go looking for an easier victim if he has such a chance to do so. And I think it's pretty realistic. I think that it does make sense. Has happened to me before many times, and just criminals don't like facing victims that suddenly become potential threats to themselves. They just prefer easier victims. So basically, after that, I stuck with this knife for a long time, and eventually moved forward to something on the same range, just a little bit bigger. I ended up with this one, cold steel, also Vaquero Grande. It's like El Hombre, but bigger El Hombre. Yeah, it is considerably bigger, and I like that. I don't think there's anyone out there that's been in a gunfight that said, oh, I wish I had a smaller caliber or less bullets or whatever. Same thing for a knife. I don't think there's anyone that I ever needed one and said, oh, I just wish I had something smaller. That's really not the case. You want something bigger when you feel, and that's one of the points in this video is showing this, right? The Vaquero Grande, okay, same basic blade, just bigger, almost 5.5 inch blade. It's actually bigger than many fixed blades. It's a pretty big, mean looking knife, and very effective knife. I wouldn't want to get stabbed or slashed with this. Wouldn't want to get stabbed or slashed with anything, but let alone something like this. Yeah, and what basically hit me is when I found this little knife, I remember these arts that were around and such. first started with this one, then this one, many years, then this one, the last couple of years or so. I realized that when you live in places like I did in Argentina, where there is a realistic threat all the time, always hanging there, always your neighbors getting hit, your family getting robbed, your even yourself, especially for young guys in Argentina, it's a fact of life. Any kid, 15 to 25 years old, someone that does spend some time on the street, especially going out at night and such, it's going to be happening, all right? And what's even worse is going to be happening even if you do your effort to avoid it. You may end up being successful for some time, but eventually it catches up with you. When that threat is realistic, this is what happens, right? When that threat is realistic in the world of firearms, that's also what happens. You don't go from bigger to smaller. You go from smaller. You maybe start with something smaller and then ended up with something bigger. And that's in many ways the opposite of what I see happening to many guys, especially in safer places. Especially when you see people in U.S. Talking about what they're carrying and such. In safer places of the world, what happens is the opposite. They start with a full-size firearm, then they don't use it. They don't feel that threat being realistic or being as serious or as imminent. I think that's one of the good words to describe it. They don't feel that threat being imminent, being it's gonna be happening to me because it happened to the guy next door. It happened to the guy who lives across the street. So when is it gonna be my turn? It's gonna be pretty soon. So when there's not such a feeling, what you end up doing is, okay, I don't need. They start with a full-size Glock, then they go with a subcompact, and they end up with a. By the time they're 60, they have the snobby 5-shot revolver with 38 plus P. Because that's and on the other side, when that threat is felt closer and it's hitting closer to home, and you feel it close to you, you do this. You go for a bigger knife. You go for the bigger guns and such. No one ever wanted less ammunition in their guns for a gunfight. No one ever wanted a smaller knife after having to use it. So I don't know. I thought it was an interesting thing to mention and such. And I suppose it's human nature to get complacent with things. And is this uncomfortable to carry in your pocket every day? I mean, I did carry it for many years, every single day, and it is not uncomfortable. It's especially not uncomfortable when that happens. What I was saying, when you know that there's a chance of you needing it. It's not only gonna be more intimidating, it's also going to be quite effective as well, and you do want that when those threats are heading close to home, when those threats are just around the corner. That's exactly what you want. So I don't know, maybe don't go for something this big, or yes, if you can manage, if you have the discipline to stick with something like this. But I believe that it's a bit of a mistake to be too complacent. Go with the smallest little thing that there is, something that you cannot even use properly, especially in the world of firearms. The people that I know in Argentina, they don't carry anything small. The serious guys, they will have a full-size Glock. The smallest thing they would have is a Glock 19, and that's it. I just maybe know one or two guys that have a Glock, a subcompact Glock, and none of them are within what I would consider my circle of people in the gun club in Argentina that were doing all the defensive stuff with me and such. No. Glock 17, most of the guys Glock 17 or Glock in 40, but full-size Glocks in 9mm or 40. I had my Glock 31 in 357 SIG, but that was it. Not smaller than that, not smaller than anything like that. Because you have to use it for training, and you do feel that threat much closer, especially for the police officers. I know he had his full-size Glock 17, and besides that, he had his issued Versa 9mm 17 plus 1 shots. He would carry every single day, all day long, 2 full-size pistols, and well, he had a rifle in the trunk and all that stuff. But it's the kind of mentality that you have when when things are getting that way. And what I see is the world is moving towards that. Even in some of the safer places, it is getting everywhere, it's getting a little bit more dangerous, and some people may end up getting caught by surprise and maybe going too far on this direction. You know, they go with a Freedom Hours 22 little revolver and think that's enough because it scares someone. It's not about scaring someone, it's about having effective tools with you when it is that you need it. So, you know, just a few thoughts in there to keep in mind and such for your consideration, folks. Take care, guys. As always, remember to subscribe if you're liking these videos, and see you next time. Have a good day.